What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Cool Colas, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. For today's topic, we're going to be talking about the Street Profits and how they were on Cameron and Mace's podcast. And Cameron had some questions, some hard questions for the Street Profits. And ultimately, I want to use this video to talk about the token case study of the Street Profits. So let's get into it. Before I get started, I just want to say this as a disclaimer. Everything that I'm about to say, I don't mean any disrespect to the Street Profits whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I want to give them a little bit of credit and a little bit of praise. The Street Profits are probably among my favorite superstars in WWE. As a matter of fact, Montez Ford is my favorite black and foundational black American wrestler in WWE currently, and definitely my favorite in modern times. Montez Ford has incredible athletic abilities. He also has the charisma. He also has the look of a champion. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be pushed to the top. So everything that I'm about to say is out of tough love, but also out of honesty. With that being said, I believe that this is necessary. And we really need to talk about how the Street Profits really were doing a lot of black tokenism when they were on Cameron's podcast and also while they're in WWE. I'm going to be straight up with y'all. I have absolutely no idea what possessed the Street Profits to go on this podcast literally a week before Wrestlemania was about to begin. It just makes no sense because there really was nothing to promote. When it comes to them as wrestlers, they aren't even on the main card. I mean, these are cats who literally are the tag team champions, and they're not even being represented on the WrestleMania card for WrestleMania 41. So honestly, they opened the door to have a lot of the criticism and hard questions that they got from Cameron. Now, I watched this episode or this podcast episode all the way through, and you can tell that Cameron was being hyperbolic, dramatic, and he was trying to be funny to a certain extent, but he also was asking some real questions. He really was saying the things out loud that nobody really says. So in the first segment of this interview, they were questioned by the sister who I believe is named Treasure Wilson. And by the way, y'all, that's a beautiful sister. I ain't even gonna hold you up. I know, brothers, we must stay focused. This sister mentioned to the Street Profits that some fans were upset about the fact that they weren't on the WrestleMania card, and she wanted to know what they have to say about fans who were not happy about this. So Montez Ford went first, and he responded basically saying that, and I'm paraphrasing, so I don't want y'all to start nitpicking at what the hell I'm about to say, because I'm going to tell you what he generally said, which is that, he believes that the fans should be happy because this gave a lot of talented wrestlers the opportunity to be showcased when they really haven't had that opportunity to do so. So it made room for them to have the opportunity to be on the card when they may have never been able to do that. Now, I want to say something to that response because I'm going to get into what Cameron did, but I want to say what I have to say about him responding in that way. I didn't really care for the response, and I mainly didn't care for that response because it was deceptive and disingenuous. And ultimately, it was a lot of saving face, and we're going to talk about why that was done as well, too. I didn't like that because if you look at what happened on the card realistically, they put on the card who they wanted to put on the card for the reasons that they wanted to put them on the card. Think about it. How many times have we seen Becky Lynch? And she hasn't been in WWE in forever, and she somehow got on the WrestleMania card. Look at Charlotte Flair, who literally just got swooped in just a few months before WrestleMania had even started and had got put right into a feud with Tiffany Stratton. So there was that. You have Rhea Ripley, who didn't have a championship, and she literally was on the card, and she was shoehorned into a match with Bianca and Io Sky. And then let's talk about people like Randy Orton. Randy Orton literally was about to not have a feud or a match whatsoever. And all the male supremacist fans were about to bitch and cry and whine and hoe because he wasn't going to be on the card. And they somehow found a way to just shoehorn a match at the end of all of that into the card so that he was able to fight and he was able to wrestle. And even if we look at some of the newer stars who were actually put on this card for WrestleMania, like if we think about the Rey Fenixes and people like that, they really were doing this as a diversity ploy, but for people who were not necessarily black. Because think about how they were trying to put more Japanese representation on the card with Io Sky being in that championship match. It was clear that even when it came to some of the new talent who was put onto the card, a lot of this was because of a diversity ploy. And you could even see that on the Raw after Mania, because think about how they had the Stephanie chick from NXT fighting Io Sky post her win. And then they also had Julia come out from NXT, and then they had Roxanne Perez. Then they had Roxanne Perez and Stephanie fighting, and then they had Julia and Io fighting. So it was clear that they're trying to show, hey, we're trying to show you as a company that we have a bunch of representation. We have Asians, we have Hispanics, we got some black folks as well too. So they were trying to do the diversity checkbox agenda. So all of this new talent that you're talking about, they're only showcasing them to basically say, hey, we represent all communities. We represent everybody. So look, we're going to throw one little match on the card with this person. We may represent this person as our token in another community. And that way we can show that we represent and we support all people regardless of what the color of their skin is. Because remember what y'all's boy Triple H said, he doesn't see color. Even if we're not looking at everything that I just said, it's just a damn excuse. Let's just be real. They did not want to put Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins on the card because, one, they're black, and two, the agenda behind what they do with a lot of black wrestlers. This is one thing that I've noticed about them. They love to take black wrestlers and either throw them into tag teams or compile them or jam them up with other random wrestlers who don't have anything going on who aren't black, and then say that they're a tag team. So it's almost as if the tag team division has become some type of moniker for black wrestlers to just be lost in the limbo of useless storylines. And then coupled with the fact that they really don't put any type of a focus or attention into tag teams like they need to, or build stories around the way these tag teams function and what happens with them and how they progress. This is just a way where a lot of black wrestlers who are very talented can just be stuck in limbo. And the Street Profits have basically had permanent residence in this regard. Now, with Montez Ford saying that this was a way to give the opportunity for other wrestlers to be able to show themselves and to show off their talent on the WrestleMania card, this also was problematic because he quickly diverted into talking about how he was going to be defending the titles on Friday Night SmackDown, which nobody really gives a shit about, especially with WrestleMania coming up. So this was also problematic as well too, because now he was trying to divert the attention away from the question, which was a question that was not just honest, but something that everybody has been asking. And you know, a lot of people are trying to stray away for whatever reason of the fact that the Street Profits are being treated the way they're treated because of the fact that they're black and they don't want to see them shine, and black talent, as Swerve has said, is not put in the best light so that they can be successful. And they were trying to divert their attention to something else so that that wasn't a center point and a center focus of this topic. But again, this goes back to what I said, which is that I don't know why the Street Profits would even go and do a podcast interview right before WrestleMania, knowing that they're the tag team champions and that they are not going to be on the WrestleMania card, and especially going to a black podcast. Cameron's at that, where Cameron is known to be honest about the way he feels about things and not think that they're going to get questioned about this. But ultimately, when Montez Ford said what he said, he was given the corporate answer. He was giving the answer that wasn't going to rock the boat. He was giving the answer that was politically correct while he's in the company. They're basically facing the dilemma of what I would call black token complacency. And let me explain what I mean by that. One other way that you might want to say this term is black excellence complacency, but I'm going to say black token complacency. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because this is an individual who is going on a podcast to represent his character, or in the case of the Street Profits, their characters on WWE. And we can see that there are a lot of black wrestlers who are in the tag division. And right now they're holding it down as the champions. So they look like a symbol of black excellence because they are black tag team champions who are doing their thing currently, and they want to be promoted as such. But the problem is they became complacent, and that kind of goes into my point about what Angelo Dawkins said in response, but I want to stick to Montez Ford just for a quick second here. One of the things that I wanted to bring up about Montez Ford and token complacency is also this idea of, if you say too much, what type of repercussions will you get? And I want you to consider this. Montez Ford makes about $200K per year, or at least that's what I looked up. His wife, Bianca Belair, makes $550K per year. Again, or at least that's what I looked up. And they're not trying to ruin that bag. So ultimately it presents a dilemma. Do I stand up when I'm not being treated fairly, or other black people are not being treated fairly? Do I speak out about these things even if they're not popular? Or do I keep my mouth shut, do what I need to do, get my bag, get what I need to get, feed my family, and keep it moving? And this is why I said that we get into the dilemma of black token complacency or black excellence complacency. Now, some of you all who are watching this are going to say, well, what's so wrong with that? Well, if we're talking about addressing systemic issues and racism in a lot of these different companies and organizations and things like that, then it's always important for us to call out when racism is going on. And ultimately, it's important for us to strategize and think about how we can work within these different companies that are racist, get whatever money that we need to get to create our own thing, and then put on for other black people. That's the way that we create black empowerment. That's the way that we strive to create better systems and representation for black people that's authentic. That's the way that we control our own thing and control our destiny. But then when you have these black tokens who literally just want to get money for themselves and just want to fuel their lifestyle and then don't want to do anything, they don't want to rock the boat, even if that means that they're just going to be somewhat complacent and they're just going to be not treated in the way that they deserve and you being used at their fullest potential. And in the meantime, nothing changes for other black people who want to get into the profession. Nothing is different. They're not given the same accolades and opportunities as these non-black wrestlers who they're much better than. Because let's be real, Montez Ford is better than 90 or more % of the wrestlers that are in WWE currently. Now, Dawkins ended up giving a somewhat different answer, but kind of in the same area. He basically said, to a certain extent, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I haven't wanted to kind of, rock the boat a little bit. And I'm paraphrasing once again, so I don't want all of y'all who are hypercritical to start bitching about me not saying exactly what he said. But he, in so many words, said that, he's not going to sit here and say he didn't want to rock the boat, but he knows that, there's a game that they got to play and there's this thing that they got to do in order to kind of make things happen and to make things shake. So my problem with this is, while it could be true, it's often all talk. It's often the nice thing to say. It's often the things that people, especially black people who don't want you to come off like a token buck, want to hear. They want to hear that you're working from the inside. But often you're not really working from the inside. You're just complacent while on the inside. And as a result, your example of the little progress that you create is you being a symbol of black excellence, but not actually creating real systems and things for black people exclusively. You all don't have any intention. And that's why I say that this was problematic as a response with both of them overall. To a certain extent, they were playing what I would call the good token, bad token role. Whereas Montez Ford was the bad token. He was the one that was going to tell you straight up, I'm going to give you the answer that is the most corporate. The answer that no black person who cares about empowerment actually wants to hear, which is that, there was a reason why they did it. And he didn't say that it had nothing to do with them being black, but he gave the politically correct answer, which is, well, there's other people who needed opportunity, so boom, we took a backseat, although y'all are the champions. And then Dawkins was kind of playing the role of appeasing those who are more so pro-black, who are on code and are thinking about the way that WWE has always moved. And he plays up to them by saying, to a certain extent, I won't say that I didn't want to rock the boat, but I know that there's a game that I got to play while I'm in the inside. So he gave the somewhat of the same answer as Montez Ford. His answer still led to this idea that they were going to be complacent because it wasn't necessarily going to lead to anything. Montez let you know that he has no intention to do anything but say the right thing, so he stays in good graces of the company and doesn't lose the little benefit that he has. Meanwhile, Dawkins is kind of stalling and kind of giving you somewhat of the answer that you might kind of want to hear, but because he doesn't have a solution immediately, or the solution is that he's going to also be complacent too and be fine with it, he'll give you that so it'll shut you up. And then in this case, it will shut Cameron and Mace and the folks who were interviewing him up. Also, too, when it comes to them not being on the Wrestlemania card, that's interesting because they've had to defend the belts over and over and over again, just like a lot of black teams have to. And they love to do that, too. They love to do this shit where a lot of these black tag teams that they create, they make them defend the belt, it feels like, every single week whenever they have it. But then some of these white tag teams, they can go literally weeks and even months and not defend them shits. So it's, again, a way to just take black wrestlers and just put them into this weird ass limbo where they're not doing anything effective. They're not being furthered in their storylines. They're not being promoted. They're not being, again, given the opportunities that some of these other non-black wrestlers are given, who they, in a lot of cases, are much better than. Cameron also questioned them, while again being funny, about their name and said, what streets are you the actual prophets of? And that was interesting, and I'm going to tell you why. That question shined a light to a certain extent, and I'm not going to say this was Cameron's intent, on WWE's common practice of relegating these different tag teams, these black wrestlers, to either be some type of thug or street gimmick or some type of performative Sambo buck. And usually they get thrown into either of these categories, and the Street Profits are, at least by name, by nomenclature, are being thrown into the street category. But if you look at the behavior of Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, neither one of these brothers are thugs whatsoever. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who are would probably call them corny. But ultimately, we can still see that they're well embossed in the FBA spirit. They have the swagger, they have the charisma, they have, the essence that shows that they grew up in a stereotypically black neighborhood and that was just their upbringing. But at the same time, we know that they're not thugs, they're not hood, and they're not any type of real street prophet. And once again, Montez was in there token-splaining, giving the corporate answer as to why this was a thing. Oh, I'm a street prophet. You a street prophet. We profit from being in the streets. And I'm like, dog, come, just shut up, dog. Shut up. Cameron Savage also brought up the idea that they're 4-time champions and they haven't even held the belt for a whole year anytime that they were a champion. So when are they going to lose the championships again? And again, that goes back to my point, which is that WWE tends to take black wrestlers, either jam them together just for the sake that they're black, or put them in a tag team just for the simple cause of not trying to promote them in any other way as a singles competitor. There's no reason why Montez Ford shouldn't have, at least at this point, been a WWE World Champion contender at least one time. More than one, really, because of his athletic talent. I mean, dude literally does the best 5-star frog splash I have ever seen. And Dawkins should at least have been a contender in either the Intercontinental Championship reign or for the United States Championship reign. But neither of them have been contenders for any of the championships I just named. They've always been tag team champions. And even when it comes to their gimmick and their alignment, WWE can't decide where they want to put them. I mean, sometimes they're heels, sometimes they're faces, and it feels like it just changes every damn week. Like at first it was a thing where it was like they were faces and they were silly and all this other shit. Then at some point they put them with Bobby Lashley and it looked like they were about to have a heel turn. They put them with Bobby Lashley and B-Fab, which is a good pair. That was a good pair up. And then they just turned randomly into faces. Then they were faces again because it was just them and B-Fab. Then B-Fab was taken out of the group. Then it was just them. And then they were faces, but they also were showing heelish tendencies. And they were trying to make it seem like, oh, this is just something different from us. But it's the same cycle of heel face. We don't know what the hell you are because we don't give a fuck about giving you a real storyline. Shit that they've always done with their characters. And then when they had injuries and then they came back from injury and became the tag team champions, they made it seem like they were going to be heels. But then it was like they were randomly faces again. And it's like, okay, are y'all trying to make them tweeners or do you just not give a fuck about the way you actually tell their stories? Because none of that was very clear. Cameron's point here was that you all in your tag team championship have been made to just seem super irrelevant. So when are you going to lose it? I mean, after that, what's it going to be? The same cycle of bullshit where nothing happens for y'all? Because that's what it's looking like. And they really weren't helping their case because literally every time Cameron was asking a question, they were trying to, filibuster into a bunch of other stuff and making a bunch of strange noises and talking about how they were the greatest tag team. They're better than anybody who has ever been on the card ever, and how they show up and do their thing. They're always all about making money and all this random shit that doesn't actually concern the questions that were being asked of them, that were some real questions that really needed some answering and that really were going to help us gauge the way that they think and their mentality. And what this ultimately showed is that these two gentlemen are complacent with being tokens for WWE. And to a certain extent, I could somewhat empathize, and I'm going to tell y'all why. WWE has this racist chain reaction of burying that they do with black wrestlers whenever they maybe fall out of line with stuff or like something happens with one wrestler, whatever the case may be. And what I mean by that is they have this tendency to, if one wrestler who is associated with another, either as a tag team or as a relationship, whatever the case may be, if that wrestler is either injured or they do something that is deemed harmful to the company or something that is deemed toxic or something that is detrimental to their image, then it could also hurt other people who are affiliated with them. So the possibility that Montez could say something that incriminates himself in WWE and makes him blackballed, it could mean that this also is something that could happen negatively for Bianca Belair, since that's his wife. And they've already done a lot with them. And one of the things that I've talked about before, and I really don't like this, is they, I believe, are trying to dysregulate or disenfranchise their relationship. Because think about it, y'all. You have a masculine black man in Montez Ford and a feminine black woman in Bianca Belair. Yet Bianca, as a salary, makes $550K. And Montez Ford makes $200K. So now you have it where Bianca Belair is the breadwinner between their relationship. Now, again, I'm not throwing any shade on Bianca Belair because I think that she is phenomenal. But I think they're both phenomenal. If anything, I think they're both equally phenomenal. But the way that WWE is painting the picture with their relationship is that Montez has not worked hard enough to be able to be a championship contender. Yet Montez Ford is highly athletic. Matter of fact, he's more athletic than just about any WWE superstar who I've seen as champion who was non-black within the last 10 years. And also consider the fact that there have been no foundational black American male champions in WWE in the last 10 years. Think about it. Bobby Lashley, not FBA. Big E, not FBA. Kofi Kingston, not FBA. But with Bianca Belair, she has had so many opportunities. She's a 3-time champion. She's been a tag team champion. She's done all types of incredible things, and she deserves all of the stuff that she has gotten. But they're doing this because they're going to give her a bunch of opportunities while not giving Montez opportunities, which again shifts the dynamics. It makes him look like he's her wife. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him. I'm just saying that they're doing all of this on purpose. They're trying to make it where he is not the breadwinner in his relationship with Bianca, despite that they are from what it looks like, a happy black couple who looks good together. Cameron Savage also called out the fact that Angelo Dawkins started off as a hype man for Sasha Banks, and basically showing that it only led to him being a tag team champion at best. And let's be real, that part is true, because I said that Dawkins is also very talented as well. As much as y'all want to sleep on Dawkins, he's also very talented. He's good just like Montez Ford is good, but Montez Ford just has champion caliber written all over him. But with Dawkins, I'm not slighting him. He's good, and he should have at least been United States champion, or at least Intercontinental champion, because let's be real. Dawkins is a better wrestler than Jey Uso. He's actually, in my opinion, if they give him a good gimmick, he's more marketable than Jey Uso. I mean, when you think about it, with these Samoan wrestlers, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but they love to make them foundational black American proxies. They give them all of the sauce and all of the swagger that you see from foundational black Americans. And it's a way to almost not promote real foundational black Americans as wrestlers. But I'm not trying to go on a tangent about Jey Uso. I'm simply just trying to say that there are things that they even could have done with Dawkins, that they did not attempt to do. And yeah, they love to make it where a lot of these black wrestlers are either, again, in tag teams, they're circus acts, or in the case of Dawkins, they're hype men for a woman who was a champion. And a black woman typically is who they will put them with, whenever they're trying to promote that black woman, but they're trying to downplay that black man. And you see that quite a bit, and that's why a lot of these black male wrestlers don't really get opportunities like that, as far as them being different champions outside of just being in a tag team. My point here is that although Cameron was being kind of silly, he also was being very serious. And part of that was that I believe he just wanted to see the best out of the black wrestlers, and the Street Profits are people who we hold in high regard. So this was his way of challenging the idea of them being able to just go on a show, promote themselves as champions, while also not getting the things that they deserved as champions, and then sit on there and act silly and give the corporate response. He wanted to hear real responses. And he wanted to ultimately show, hey, listen, you guys are great, but you guys are not doing enough to not just put yourself out there so that you can show that you deserve to be champions, and in the case of Montez Ford, top champions, but also this idea that you're not really doing anything to really shake the table that would help a lot of other black wrestlers as well too, because there's a lot of them who are great. Honestly, I did this analysis because from my perspective, I don't believe there's going to be much boat rocking when it comes to either one of them, especially when it comes to Montez Ford. I think this brother knows that he has too much to lose when it comes to what's happening with him. But I needed to call this out because this is an issue that I see quite a bit. A black person who is in some type of profession, some type of job, they're either an actor or an athlete or somebody or a rapper, or somebody who is very important, very prominent, very talented. And often you see them not giving the credit that they deserve, or the flowers that they deserve, or the opportunities that they deserve. And most of the time, the reason why they're not getting any of these things is because they're complacent with making a lot of money and doing good for themselves and nobody else. And even the times where they do try to come off like they are either on code, pro-black, or like they're trying to do something constructive and justice oriented, it's all a ruse. It's all controlled opposition. It's all this idea of saying that we need to do things from the inside, but it only leads to this false representation of black excellence, but nothing that actually amounts to tangible things for other black people. They're not trying to really make other things happen. You see this quite a bit. And this is something that I've talked about before called the black insider spy hustle. In other words, gone are the days where you have the Michael Jacksons and the Princes and the other black entertainers who, although they were doing these fly things on their own from their talents, they also were getting business things popping on the side and trying to put black people on and doing things that were, again, empowering to the community. And you don't really see that very much now. But the black insider spy hustle basically is the agenda that I have come up with that theorizes this idea that you have a lot of these black people who are talented within a certain system or in their particular sector. And because they're talented, people look to them as being heroes or individuals who are going to do great things in black society. And it's not clear whether or not they're playing the field or everything that they're getting, every accolade that they're winning is going to lead to them having some type of autonomy and then creating something for other black people. It's never really clear because, again, we haven't really seen that since the Michael Jackson and Prince days. Most of these people, when they get some type of accolade or some type of great success from their talent, because we have a lot of talented brothers and sisters, they end up doing something just for themselves. Or even if they say they're doing something charitable or helpful, it's not for the sakes of black people and black empowerment. So again, it's not really doing anything to benefit the community. It's just to benefit themselves, or in the case of when they bring these things up, their image. And that's something that we need to start calling out, because we got to stop rallying behind people if all they're going to do is help themselves. And I'm not saying don't support the Street Profits, because I will continue to support these brothers. I think they're both phenomenal as wrestlers. But what I'm saying, and this is just a piece of constructive criticism, is there's no reason to ever think that they're going to shake the table, because in this podcast interview that you all saw, if you saw it, they show that they have no intentions to do so. All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I'll definitely have more to come, so make sure that you stay tuned. In the meantime, hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button, and the bell icon so you get notifications when I come out with new content on this channel. Other than that, I'll talk to you later. Peace out, y'all.